Hey, welcome to episode number 13 of the BK Show podcast. Today I'm joined by someone super special. I met Steve Sims at a mastermind I attended last year where Steve told stories of helping people get married at the Vatican, helping someone get on stage during a Journey concert and sing with the band, helping all kinds of stuff that he mentions a few in this show that honestly they're crazy. He is just the guy that gets shit done. He wrote the book Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. I can't recommend that book enough. Put a link in the show notes, head to Amazon, wherever you need to do. Check out his book. It's short, it's sweet, it's fantastic. It really tells Steve's story and talks you through how to get shit done. It's an amazing book. He's an amazing human being. I'm super glad he was able to carve out a little bit of time to come on the show. So this is a short episode, but I hope you enjoy every minute of it. Please welcome my guest, Steve Sims. Well, hey, welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks for having me.
I met you at a mastermind. You came in and spoke. You told all of us, honestly, some crazy experiences that you've helped create in this world. And from that moment, when I knew I was starting a podcast, I was like, I got to get Steve Sims on here and just to tell his story. Like, your story is similar to mine, right? And so you have a book called Bluefishing. I would recommend everybody go buy his book, Bluefishing. It's fantastic. And in that book, you talk about your beginnings. It wasn't what you're doing now, right? Like, your family had kind of built this box of like what you could do in your life, and you were falling right into that path. And my story is very similar. My dad was a warehouse worker. My mom was a CNA. And up until age 30, I was working at a warehouse and I was married to a CNA. And I was like, oh, this is as good as life gets, right? But I changed that, and so did you, right? And so I want, if you could you share like where you came from, and then, I mean, feel free to brag about any cool experiences you want to talk about.
Well, I don't want to kind of like burst anyone's bubble yet, but I'm no different from anybody else, and it's uncanny and almost repetitive. Where I meet people and they go, do you know, my life is just the same. Now, I could sit here and tell you stories of, you know, me chatting with the Pope or, you know, sipping champagne with Sir Elton John, and they all sound fantastic, but the journey is actually the exact same, because believe it or not, an entrepreneur's DNA is pretty much the exact. You know, maybe the stories, maybe the destinations, maybe some of the hurdles or outcomes have changed, but we're pretty much similar. You know, you were saying about you came from one box and grew up thinking that's the box you should live in. You know, I was in East London back in the 80s, and my family owned a construction firm, which consisted of basically my dad and my mum and me uncle. And so as soon as I left school at the age of 15, college was never even discussed. It was like, right, you're out of school, get on the building site. We need an extra hand. And I was the big lump that had to start working on the building site. So at the age of 16 years old, looking at me, well, here's the funny thing. My granddad used to work on the building site, my uncle, my cousins. So at the age of 16, I'm looking at my family tree going, this is it, you know, right, okay. So that was school. Now this is life. And it looks like this. It looks like shit every single day. But I get used to it. But as entrepreneurs, this is where there's some kind of chemical unbalance in us. We don't fit until we dominate. And we're always trying to like find out, you know, where the peg can fit in the right hole, until we come to a point where we go, fuck it, let's make the hole. You know, let's design it ourselves and ram ourselves in there. The bottom line of it is, we quite often know when things aren't right more often than when we know things are. And I therefore left the construction industry going, is this really my life? You know, and I was very dissatisfied. I was very disgruntled. And as a big lad, you know, with tattoos and piercings and stuff like that, you know, my mum just thought I was going to end up in jail. And so I just bounced off the wall. I tried loads of different jobs, from selling insurance, selling books, truck driver, cake salesman. I tried so many different things that didn't work, but they got me closer to what did. And what did was me to invent my own hole. So the bottom line of it is, we can name drop, we can talk about countries, we can talk about money, we can talk about Ferraris, but the story and the journey is pretty much the same for all of us out there. Every single entrepreneur is 9 times out of 10 disgruntled and aggravated until they conquer.
I love finding out that moment, right? So in your book, you talk about looking back on the ladder and seeing your whole family, right? And then that's the day you decided to quit. And for me, very similar story. in the warehouse. It took me like 9 years to get to first shift, and that was like the holy grail. And I remember that fucking day I got there and I looked around and I'm like, this is it. This is everything. I got to first shift and everyone's dead inside. I took a note in my phone and I was just like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I didn't have the balls to quit like you. That's some, a big pair of balls to just quit and move on. But that moment, I feel like a lot of, if not all entrepreneurs have that moment where they're like, this isn't for me. And I'm not normal.
I was we are not. Let's be serious. We're Hogwarts, aren't we? We're the weirdo, dysfunctional people at Hogwarts that make things happen that other people think are just magical and impossible. But just to embellish a little bit more or reveal a little bit more of the story you're talking about, I was very lucky that I met that moment. I'd come off the building site that you just mentioned, and my granddad, my uncle, my cousins, my dad were all on the same scaffolding line. So I literally saw me at the age of 16 and then my granddad in the 80s. And I saw my entire family tree, my uncle and my dad in like the 30s and 40s, my cousins in the late teens and 20s. I saw every decade of my life, roughly. And so at tea break, I actually, like a moron, like a 16-year-old twat, just walked up to my granddad and I said to him, Granddad, did you ever think you'll be doing this at your age? Now, my family's a big Irish family, and I'm surprised I didn't get smacked on the ass. But luckily, he just turned around and didn't look at me. I remember this. Just kept drinking his tea, but was blowing in the tea to cool it down. And he just said, if you don't quit today, you'll be me tomorrow. One of the most terrifying words I've ever, and I even go back to it and I go, that was massive. And it did. I literally came out of that hut and I said to my dad, and I was like, Dad. And he hated being called Dad on the building site. And I was like, Dad. And he's like, what is it? And I said, I just went in there and I saw Granddad and I went over and I said, and he said, if you don't quit, you'll be me. And I'm spouting like a little teenage girl at a Justin Bieber concert. And I said, I'm going to quit. And as that was happening, Granddad was walking behind me. And Dad saw him, and they looked at each other, and my dad just went, I'm light-handed. Finish at the end of the week, and you're done. And so I was like, okay. So I finished. Now, the funny thing is, I always believe, and maybe it's romanticism, but I always believe my granddad and my dad, somewhere deep down, now we're a thick Irish family, which breeds stubbornness. They knew that there was something better out there, and so they were quite happy that one of us was going to go out and try and find it. But my mum, jeepers, my relationship with my mum, sadly, until today, has never been the same, because in her words, I turned my back on the family business, and in her words, I think I'm better than them. And I had to suffer that I'm in my 50s now, and that's what my mum always used to say, oh, you think you're better than us. And I used to say to her, no, I think I'm better than this. Not better than you, better than this. And I can always be better, and never should you have to defend wanting to be better than where you are today. In fact, if I am the exact, if we meet in a pub, in a year's time, and I have not experienced, attempted, failed, sacrificed, screwed up countless times in that year before we meet again, then that will be sad. Because I believe that it's from our mistakes that we grow, and I never want to stop growing. I'm very happy where I am today. Very happy. But trust me, I do not want to be in exactly the same space a year from now, or I would have wasted a year.
I think that gets talked about a lot, right? Crabs in the pot. So you boil a bunch of crabs and one of them tries to get out and the other crabs pull them back down. And so I have this experience in my own life. I have people who, family and friends who, I've got out, as they say, as you're talking about, right? And they say the same thing of like, must be nice or it's change for them, right? And like, it's a reflection of what they should have done, I guess. I don't know. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with your mom? Is your mom still around? Is that something you use? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the crabs?
Sometimes you can't. To keep the crab equation going along, sometimes you just got to boil them and eat them and go on with it. You've really got to look at the source. Now, I've always felt very, very sad about me and my mum, but she comes from a generation that was born just after the war. You know, they had food stamps. They didn't have opportunities. The kids today have got more opportunities than we had. The kids that they have will hopefully have more opportunities than they've got. So it's a constant growth. You know, it's really stupid when people kind of look at the kids today looking for a safe space when they were 17, and 100 years ago, they were looking for a place to avoid bullets during the war. You can't compare. You absolutely can't compare. Our job is to give a better life, and along with a better life is going to be better problems. My mum could never get over it. And those people, you call them friends. You'll always go into a pub, and you'll always, I talk about pubs a lot, you'll always go into an environment. I go, hey, I'm going to do this. I saw this on TV on Shark Tank. I can do that. I'm going to try that. And you'll always get that person that turns around and went, yeah, right, you can't do that. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the next part. I will confront that person. I'll go, why? And if they turn around and go, whoa, you're stupid, you can do that. Those are the people that are scared you're going to do it to validate that they never could. Okay? Those are the crabs. Those people have to be removed from your life. I've got a lot of, I'm thrilled to be able to call people like Jay Abraham, Joe Polish, Roland Frazier, mentors and friends that openly jeer and challenge me. I will say, hey, I'm going to do this. And they'll go, really? Why? And I'll be like, because I think that's not good enough, Steve. I need a bigger answer. And they will challenge me to validate why it's good. If you get the challenges, not the naysayers, the challenges in your world, keep them. I go to a lot of events. George Bryant, you mentioned earlier. I love to get an idea, phone up someone and say, hey, I'm going to do this. And someone like George would turn around and go, well, why are you going to do that? Now, that's not negative. That's not negative. He's looking for me he's looking to see if I've thought it through. Okay. He's looking to help save me some scars and some problems by going through it, because half of the times I'll go through that conversation and someone from a 30,000 foot view can turn around and go, but have you thought of this? And you go, no, I hadn't. And they go, well, look, dig into that, see if you can get rid of that bottleneck, and then let's continue the journey. So you want those people that challenge you, but the naysayers, kick them to the curb. My mum, I've never had a relationship with since. I've not really spoken with her, and it's very, very sad. Those friends, and I still have a handful of friends from when I was at school that have gone, good for you, boy. And I'll be in a room with billionaires and poor people, just like all jeering and chatting and kind of like, because we're all of the same mindset. We're just in a different financial position between us all. But I say get rid of the naysayers and keep the challenges there.
It just has to be hard that it's your mom, right? Even my old man, he'll call me and be like, "Oh, nice that you could stop counting your money and give me a phone call," right? Like, it's difficult. It's difficult when it's your family.
Well, who sent you a text saying this shit was going to be easy? It's everything we do. Everything we do. I would love to see a business plan from last July that says that we're going to raise X amount of money, we're going to buy a property, we're going to start building it out, we're going to go into business on the 1st of January, and then we're going to be shut down on the 1st of March for a pandemic that no one had ever heard of. It doesn't exist. Shit turns up. That's why it's called shit. The bottom line of it is we didn't know this was going to happen. And along the way, us entrepreneurs, us misfits, us disruptors and creators, we need to make the tough decisions that other people can't. I love my mum, but I can't communicate with her. Does it make me sad? Damn right. Does it make me a better father to my kids? Oh, yeah. Am I going to stop trying just to get my mum's validation versus living up the hills here in just outside of Malibu? Hell no. So you've got to make those tough decisions. They may make you angst, they may make you cry, they may hurt, but hey, as I say, no one said this shit was going to be easy.
So I'd love to talk about some of your experiences if you have a minute. A couple of the ones that blew me away were you being able to have a dinner party in front of Michelangelo's statue of David. And there's more to that story as well. But you care to share a couple of the stories that you've created, the experiences you've created for people. And then I'd love to dive into how you actually take action on these things. Cause you're a man of action. You're a guy that just gets shit done.
Yeah, exactly. I am. So just to give you, I don't know, I suppose some of the top 10. Had a client that wanted to have a dinner in Florence, and he wanted the ultimate dining experience. Those were his words. I ended up closing down the entire museum of the Accademia di Galleria in Florence that houses Michelangelo's David, set up a table of 6 at the feet of David, and then halfway through the client eating that pasta, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade him. I had a couple who wanted to get married in the Vatican by the Pope. I had a client that wanted to meet the rock band Journey. That sounded a bit dull, so what I did was I had him brought up on stage, and he sang 4 tunes live on stage, and he's now registered as the shortest-term lead singer of the rock band Journey. I've done a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, a piano lesson with Sir Elton John, a guitar lesson with ZZ Top. I've had people walking through the Formula One pits in Monaco with Prince Albert. Where does it stop? You know, the bottom line of it is, if you have a dream, and I do this in business now through the entrepreneurial side, but if you have a dream and a checkbook, I'll make it happen. And 9 times out of 10, well, not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, I'll ignore what you first asked for. And that's where the real trickery and secret sauce comes in. Because if you want to become bankrupt tomorrow, do what Amazon is doing. Okay, you won't be able to compete, and they'll put you out of business. So if you look at any artificial intelligence, if you look at any transactional company, like if you want to change toilet roll tomorrow, I dare you, phone up Amazon and go, hey, you know, I've been using, I don't know, Charmin for like last 10 years. What should I use now? Who are you going to call? They don't have anyone that's going to help you out with bloody toilet roll choice. It's a transactional organization, and we've got used to it. You look at everything in your life, whether it be Siri, Alexa, play this. Siri, do this. You know, people don't think. Now, AI is going to get better, but what it can't ever do is dream and go for stupid. And that's where I am good, because I am more stupid than most people. So when people come to me and they go, hey, Steve, I'd really like to meet the rock band Journey, I always go, okay, I'm going to listen to what you asked for, and then I'm going to give you what you lust and desire for. So I've never, ever given a client what they asked for. The client that wanted the dining experience in Florence, I could have gone on the Italian version of Open Table, booked a good restaurant, phoned up the restaurant, given them a couple of, 100 lira and said, hey, send the chef over to say hi. And that would have been good. Everyone would have been happy. But it wasn't good enough for me. So I went for stupid. What is the most ridiculous, stupid thing I could do? Now, here's the dumb thing. Over the years, I have turned around and gone, hey, I want a 200-foot yacht because I want to throw a dinner party for a client on the bow of the yacht. And people that own those yachts have gone, sod off. But you know the funny thing is, I've ended up getting a 150-foot yacht. Yet the client, all he ever wanted was a waterfront dinner table. But I've now got him on a yacht. The client that wanted the dining experience. You've got to go for stupid. And when you fall short, you're still miles ahead of what the client originally wanted. The daft thing happens is the more that you go for it and the more you achieve, that becomes your new level of standard. When you can phone up someone and go, hey, I want to talk to you because I was working with Sir Elton John and Elon Musk last month, and I want to be working with you now. All of a sudden, people are going, whoa, okay. What do you need from me, seeing as you are that caliber, you are that level? And I'm going to break it down to make it easier for you, okay? For the people listening to this, this is my magic sauce. I know you're all sitting there and you can't see me. I'm basically a British version of Brad Pitt. Stunningly good-looking man. And my mum's the queen. That's how I managed to get all of these things. So, yeah, you can tell he's laughing. So that's bullshit.
It's uncanny.
So it's uncanny, isn't it? The resemblance and the accent. So when I got the academia and it was all approved, they handed me down to the curator. So I go top down. I never go bottom up. I go top down. I try to find who owns, who's in charge, who's the biggest investor. I always go top down, okay? You don't always get them, but if you aim high, you still shoot high. What I did was I managed to get the Galleria to say yes. I managed to get Andrea Bocelli's people to say yes. But they put me in charge with the curator of the museum that would now handle all of the logistics. Curators know everything about the museum. They know all the history. They know all the love, the wars that happened to get that artwork in that museum. Okay, they looked at me as just like a little connected rich kid that just went around kind of like pulling these dreams off, like a little party boy. And this curator actually, he gave me a bit of friction. I'd be like, are we going to be doing this at 6:00? And the guy would be like, yeah. Couldn't get a bloody sentence out of the guy. He just didn't want to talk to me. He gave me friction every single opportunity he could. So come the night of the event, and I didn't tell you this story at George's, so this is fresh for you. At the night, I had the table laid up, and I had Andrea Bocelli just warbling up as his son was hitting the notes of the piano. And what they would do, he would like go, do all of this kind of stuff. And then they would move the piano 5 feet, and he'd do it again after they'd tuned the piano. That piano danced around the base of Michelangelo's David to try and make sure that there wasn't too much reverb, okay? So while this is all, it took an hour for this to bloody move, and I swear the piano never moved more than, I don't know, a 10-foot radius. But it has to be tuned every time you move it. So as this was going on, I'm stood by the wall. I'm talking to Veronica Bocelli, Andrea's wife, and the curator is on the other side of the wall to me, maybe 15 feet away from me, and I won't use his real name. But I thought to myself, right, this prick's giving me friction all the way through. It's my time. So I went, hey, come over here. So he comes over to me, hands all crossed, all looking kind of like suave and pissed off at the same time. And he comes over, and he didn't even look at me. He's looking forward at Andrea and the table and the profile of Michelangelo's David. And I said to him, hey, how beautiful is this? Did you ever think that we'd have a table at the feet of Michelangelo's David? And the guy is like, no, it is beautiful. I said, look at that. Andrea Bocelli, the most iconic singer, not only in Italy, of which he's a god, but in the world, is actually going to serenade our clients during their pasta. Is that fantastic? Oh, that is amazing. I said, look at this. Not only is the table beautiful, and we've got Andrea Bocelli, look at the view they're going to be having while they're chuffing their meatballs. David, could it get any better than that? And the guy's like, no, it is beautiful. It is wonderful. So now I'd got him to commit 3 times. Now I wanted to give him a bitch slap. I know it's petty of me, but I wanted to. So I went, well, how come you think I made it happen then? Just expecting him to turn around and go, well, no one is connected as you, Steve, or no one is as suave, or no one knows how to negotiate as good as you. I was expecting a compliment, which I knew would see him burn in hell inside. And in the end, he just turned around to me and he went, nobody's ever asked. And it just caught me that quite simply, people don't ask. Mm. Now, as it happened, that crumbled me. He knew I was trying to bitch slap him. I crumbled. I was like, no, damn you. We became good friends, and we've been friends ever since. But it's true, so true, that when I came back to the States, I actually started to phone up some of the people that I had dealt with and some of the events I'd actually been involved in, from the Grammys, the Kentucky Derby, the New York Fashion Week, Formula One, literally name it, and I'd probably been part of it, whether behind the scenes in branding and marketing or was an official status within the event itself. And I said to them, how did we pull this off? What was the first thing that made you realize this was going to happen? And every single one of them said, well, you asked. And it suddenly became very apparent that people don't ask for what they want. And you want to believe that even further? Get a bunch of your mates together and say to one of them, hey, this weekend you win $5 million. What would you do? And they would say, I'd get a hot tub and all the, Victoria's Secrets models. It's a knee-jerk reaction. And if you turn around and you go, well, what would you do later on? They'd like, build a school, buy my mum a house. Now they're thinking. But what does tend to happen is they say things like, I'll play piano with Elton John. And then they go, but I can't play piano, and our job would never want anything to do with me. And I don't even know how to get a hold of the guy. The bottom line of it is they would spend more time telling you why they can't do something than focusing on the one reason why they should. So when people come to me and they go, hey, I want to do this, I listen to what they're asking for, and then I try to push the boat out to see if I can give them what they lust, desire, and dream for.
I love that you somehow get stuff done, right? And your book kind of turns this into like entrepreneurship as well, like into other businesses, right? Like you're the guy people go to when they want to get shit done, and somehow you get it done. But your book translates that into business, right? And you're doing the same thing in your Facebook group and in your mentoring and things like that. And so, like, I have a note on my desk that I've had here for like a year. Action is the only thing that matters, right? And so, I love how you kind of put it into like words of like all you had to do was ask.
Yeah, we have a Facebook group. It's free of charge, so there's no pitch or benefit out of it. It's called An Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims, and it's a free community. And I'm very vocal on you could have a brilliant business plan that if you do nothing with it is still shit. And a half-baked concept written on the back of a postage stamp that's actioned will go further. So it's all to do with where's the first step. You know, when someone said to me, I want to get married in the Vatican by the Pope, I went, all right, I'd better phone someone I know in Italy. Because quite simply, what's the point of me phoning someone in Wisconsin? You know, hey, Wisconsin, do you know the Pope? You know, so I took the first step. And while it's stupid, I actually was I had a client that did one of the early climbs up to some of the base camps of Everest. And base camp is, as it sounds, it's the first camp at the base of Everest. You can wander up there. You can visit it. It's not that hard. It's pretty level, but it's base camp. How do you go up Everest? The first thing you do, get to base camp. Step one, get to base camp. You know, it's an easy stroll. You don't need altitude training. You don't need any of these things to get to base camp. People look at stuff and they look up and they go, how am I going to achieve this big thing, rather than focusing on the first step that it takes to create that momentum to get into it? And you're right. It's all to do with action. My wife has often said that my superpower is ignorance. Someone says, oh, can you do this? And I'll be like, yeah, all right. And then I'll go and start doing it. I won't overthink it. I won't scare myself. I won't put fences and parameters in front of myself. I will just go and try and do it. And you know, the amount of times I've failed, the amount of times that I've asked a question and got a resounding no, and then I've gone, shit, how did I get a no there? How did that go wrong? And I have analyzed it because I got the person on the phone. I got the right person I needed to speak to, but I got a no. So somewhere in there, it went wrong. It went south. Where did it go south? Sometimes you discover it wasn't the right person I was speaking to. This person isn't in power. This person was going to say to me, no to me, even if I asked them for the time. You know, so that's a problem. Correct the person, ask the question again. So you analyze the moment. I had a client that actually, it was in Los Angeles, and he's one of my coaching clients. And he said, I want to do this pitch. He said, and I've got this appointment and they've got the directors there and blah, blah, blah. I want you to come with me. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, I know it sounds funny, but would you mind being my secretary? I said, are you kidding? I said, I don't like a secretary. He said, well, we can pretend you're my driver. So I went, so what do you want me to do? He said, just come in, sit in the corner and watch me close this deal. You know? So I came in, they introduced me as his security and his driver. Not that this guy needed a bloody security guard, but, you know, that's who they introduced. I sat in a corner and I watched him pitch. And it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon. We left there and he didn't have the deal. Now, he had all of the board of directors in there and he didn't get the deal. And he was moaning and swearing and he was embarrassed. And I went, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why are you all of those things? You know, you've just got probably an impeccable amount of education in one afternoon. Let's break it down. So he was like, I can't see it. I said, look, hang on. Did you get the attention of the company? Yes. All right, so your introduction skills were good. Did you get all of the power players, all of the decision makers in one room? Yes, right. So what you had to offer was of interest enough that it actually got them all in. You very rarely get that, but he did. And so we went through all of these things of where he went wrong. His problem was he had a structured payment process. And we didn't know that at the time, but he went, and we get paid by this. Companies get paid different ways. All companies earn money, some weekly, some monthly, some quarterly. Some of them have their taxation coming up. Some of them are doing their marketing period. Companies move in different manners. So we went through everything. So I said to him, here's what I want you to do. I want you to contact the girl that got you the appointment. And I want you to say, thank you so much for taking the time to hear me. I really appreciate it. I respect and will stand behind the no that you gave me. But I wanted to ask a question. Where did I lose it? And this will help me for my next meeting. So it's not trying to be a kind of like a secret way back in. I just want to know for my next meeting. Would you mind helping me? And he did that. I actually was in front of him as he made that phone call and coached him through that call. And she said to him, it was the payment plan. Companies don't like to be told when they're going to make payments. It's a natural kind of like, hey, you will do this at 4:00 on Tuesday. If I said to you at 4:00 on Tuesday, you will drink a beer, and then at 3:00 on Thursday, you'll drink another beer. And you'll do that every single week for the next month. You'd actually start resenting me because of this time. And as an entrepreneur, you'd start doing it at 5 past or 5 to, just to, kind of like boast a bit or puff your chest or stretch the boundaries because we don't like to follow orders. So once we discovered that, he thanked her very much. And he said he's going to put in he's going to introduce that we have flexible payment options that work best for you. Now, he actually said that he was going to do that, thanked her very much for the time, went off, did another deal, and got the deal because of this flexible payment option. But one of the real beauties, like all companies, this girl left, moved to another company. Before they instigated the plan that he was selling, she contacted him. He went in, pitched it again with his flexible business plan, a payment plan, and he got the deal. So he ended up getting 2 deals out of asking that question where he lost her. And people think that when you fail, that's finite. Wrong. When you fail, when you make a mistake, that's where all the growth is. That's where all the nuggets are. You do not get successful from success. You get successful from making mistakes and going, that's where that went wrong. I won't do that again. And you end up elevating 10 feet higher than you would have done originally.
So I love that you made the transition for me. That's actually note number 2 of 3 notes I took for this call was like, you say every no or failure is a discovery, right? So like take action. You're going to fucking fail. It's what you learn from those failures and keep going. And like, I do think that's what stops a lot of people from starting. A lot of people I've tried to help get started. They hit one roadblock and it cripples them, right? It's rather than learn from it and keep moving forward, it cripples them. And so the third note I took was like finding your passion because it's the only thing you'll never quit on, right? And so I want to talk to you about like finding your passion. What tips can you give anybody listening to actually find what gets them lit up inside? Obviously, when you're making these things happen for all these entrepreneurs and people and stars around the world, that lights you up inside, right? Like you love building these relationships and making people's dreams come true. How do you help entrepreneurs find what they're passionate about? Because anything's monetizable.
Well, I'm glad you actually finished with that statement. So here's the thing. You never know what it is that you're good at until you really reverse engineer it and analyze it. I realized that I loved doing what everyone else thought was impossible. I love pushing the boundary. I love the marketing and the branding. I love the logistics. Believe it or not, I'm a shit people person because I don't freaking like most people I meet. I'm really good at the other stuff, but I don't have the time to kind of chat with you on what you watched on TV last night. I don't care. So I realized what it was that was my PowerPoints. This passion thing has got very confusing for a lot of people. It's a friend of mine, Joe Polish, talks about elf businesses. And I think that's where we should really focus the passion on. If you're passionate about something, you enjoy it and it makes you smile. If you can do something that you enjoy and it makes you smile and you can monetize it, then that's a business you can sustain without getting tired. You see, the amount of people that actually pay to be in business, whether it be through, their health, whether it be through the stress. How many people do we know that are very successful that are divorced? They lose relationships. They lose family. The kids won't talk to them, but hey, doesn't matter. They're a partner in the business. That kind of bullshit. ELF stands for easy, lucrative, and fun. You've got to look at what you do. And it may not even be what you're doing as a business now. What do you do that you can do easy that for somebody else they can't do? You see, I'm not paying you to do something. I'm paying you so I don't have to. Always remember that. You're paying to outsource the pain to somebody else. So what do you do? What problem are you solving for somebody else? To who are you the solution? And if it's easy for you and it's fun because you'll be able to maintain it, then all you've got to do is stick a price tag on it. What is it worth to somebody else? Now, the amount of stuff, writing a book is like a Raxel exam. You don't realize what it is you do until you really start analyzing it and putting it into the book. The amount of times we would stop during the book and go, I didn't realize I did that. Because for me, it was easy. For me, it was just something I did, but we don't realize it. When you can start realizing what it is that you do that's relaxed, easy, and fun, then you go, well, okay, how much would it be worth to save that person even thinking about it? And that's where you start monetizing it. So look at your businesses. If it's hard, if it's got friction, if it's got pain, you don't want that because you don't want to be anywhere near on that. You have to focus on something called ROE, return on energy. How is your energy being dispersed? How is it being spent? And what is the return on it? And you need to find things that are easy to do and make sure you monetize accordingly. The biggest danger I find, I had this girl and she was absolutely brilliant at copywriting. And she actually was doing these press releases and she was selling these press releases for her to her clients, $40 a press release. Her copywriting was absolutely incredible. And I was like, why the bloody, you should be doing video sales letters. You should be doing copy for websites. You should be doing, you should be writing people's books. You should be ghostwriting. But from here on, your rate starts at $2,000. She was like, oh my God, I can never charge $2,000. And I said, you're looking at it wrong. You're not charging, you're saving the client. You're saving them all of this time to give them something. As soon as she started charging that amount of money, she got a higher level of client. Have you ever noticed that the clients that bitch and moan at you are usually the ones that are moaning over $50? I have never, ever had anyone moan at me on a $50,000 invoice. But the second I released a course, and I did this, I released it at $49 a month, okay? I had people bitching at me. Oh, I don't use it anymore. Can I get my money? Oh, I didn't do it. Oh, this didn't work for me. I'm like, are you kidding? Are you mad? And it really got me aggravated. So what did I do? I increased it to $97. And all of a sudden started getting rid of those assholes because you want people to be committed. And the bottom line of it is, I've said it a million times, if they don't pay, they won't pay attention. And that's what you've got to be focusing on.
Yeah, I love an experiment that I try to do with my consulting clients too, as far as the passion. You kind of mentioned it earlier, right? What if I asked them, what if you won the lottery, like all the money in the world, $100 million? What would you do with your time? What would you do, right? And they usually answer, I'd go buy this car, I'd buy my mom a house, I'd travel the world, right? And okay, great. We've traveled the entire world. You've seen everything. You bought everything you needed. What are you going to do with your time? And that's usually when it gets down to like their passion. And most people think whatever that passion is isn't monetizable, but I'm telling you, it's definitely monetizable. And I own the domain Authentic E-commerce that I plan to launch some stuff there as well. Like just be authentic, be yourself, find your passion, find your group of people, and then provide value. And it's really simple when you wake up every day and you're talking about what you love.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You're spot on there.
Look, I don't want to take too much of your time. I appreciate what I had. I do have one little gift for you. I've heard you on a bunch of podcasts. You talk about your Facebook group. I love it. I'm a part of it. And there's an easier way to get to your Facebook group right now. It's called hangwithsims.com. And I'm going to give you this URL when we're done. I'll connect with your team and give it to you. So go to hangwithsims.com, SIMS, and that'll take you right to Steve's Facebook group. Ton of value in there. The guy just always providing value. So go to hangwithsims.com, join his Facebook group. And Steve, I appreciate you being on, buddy.
That's probably the nicest, most thoughtful gift ever. I do love whiskey, but I'm going to go with that. That's probably better than whiskey. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Well, thanks so much to Steve for carving out a little time to come on my podcast. I hope you guys found some value in this. Definitely go to hangwithsims.com, join his Facebook group. You're going to find value from the guy, I promise you. Head to Amazon, look up Bluefishing. You can find the link in the show notes as well. Grab a copy of his book. I think you're going to really enjoy it. So thanks again for joining me this week. Make sure to leave a review, subscribe, join the newsletter, all those good things, and I will see you all next Wednesday.